I believe we're recording. Right, ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be there. Hello and welcome back to the Darling Academy. My name's Alena Kate Pettitt. You might have heard of me recently because I've been in the news quite a bit talking about being a traditional housewife. I have had so much positive response, but there's also been some really negative feedback. And because you've been so mean, I've got my mum here today because I told on you lot. Do you know what? Obviously I could get my husband on to talk about our lifestyle. I could continue to talk about our lifestyle, but there's probably no one in the world that knows me better than my own mum.
Yeah.
So we've actually got really different lifestyles, haven't we? And
Very different.
Yeah, different lifestyles and different experiences with kind of how we've raised our children and the way we've run our homes. So I thought I'd interview her today. I know.
Exciting.
So by the way, this is Winnie.
Hello.
She's my mum. She had me at, you were...
19, just before my 20th birthday.
Yes, and you were single, weren't you? I suppose you had a boyfriend.
I had a boyfriend,
who was my dad.
Yes.
He's not my biological dad.
No.
And he's the best man in the world.
Yes, he is.
So all those people saying, oh, clearly you've married someone older because you've got daddy issues.
No.
So wrong.
So
I've got
wrong.
one, thanks.
Yeah.
And yeah, you did it mostly on your own, didn't you?
Yes, I have. I've sort of, through no sort of choice, just life really.
Yeah.
Have sort of been a single parent quite a lot of the time. So, that's sort of, it's been difficult at times, but you get through it. You find a way to move forward and get through it.
Yeah, and I think as well, I'm going to make you a cup of tea.
Thank you.
I think as well that this is part of the reason why I was so adamant growing up that I kind of wanted this really traditional lifestyle, is because I could see how hard it was on you.
It was really, really hard.
Yeah. And I mean, would you say you're domestic?
No.
So that's not even come from you, has it?
No, it hasn't at all.
Do you want sugar?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
One. Yes.
So what was I like growing up as a girl?
Probably as a little girl, you were always very close to me. So I would sort of, anywhere that I was, I would turn and you would be right there next to me. But up until you were about 6, you were just an absolute angel. Really, you were a perfect little girl.
What are you talking about?
Of course you are. Of course you are. And then when you turned 6, it was almost like you turned into this teenage drama queen. You were always an old soul. You always had an old soul. You were always quite sort of mature for your age. But yes, about 6, you turned into this sort of, I would call it teenage drama queen.
I think all girls do that, though, don't they?
Yes,
I think that's just a natural.
Yes, I do.
From what I've seen anyway. Obviously, I don't have daughters, but I've got a much younger sister. She's 20 years younger than me, so I've kind of witnessed that.
Yes,
with her as well.
Oh no, definitely. And I think, but also if you think about the sort of the age, at that age, you're then starting. You're at school, so you've got all of these outside influences as well. So you've got your peers. And you're probably maybe watching a little bit more TV or something like that and seeing what's what's happening on the television.
And what did I enjoy watching at the time, and the things I enjoyed playing?
You very much house. It was very much playing house, playing. You loved to, you had a little like a kitchen set and things like that, and your dolls.
My Barbie dream house.
Your Barbie dream house.
I can't believe you got rid of that.
I know. I'm sorry. Yeah, it was very much about playing house and playing mummy and things like that. And you very much. I mean, I was very much a Doris Day fan, so we loved watching those old films again. Super fans. So it was very much around that. You were very much sort of like not to stereotype, but girly girl. And,
and do you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. We are making such great strides in gender equality and embracing things, but I personally feel like we are throwing away celebrating being girly or manly, because we're trying to make room for new things. I don't think you need to throw the baby out with the bathwater with regards to that, because I still identify with that and I'm made to feel like I'm wrong.
No, it's definitely not wrong. I mean, you can be you can be a girly girl and you can be a feminine woman and still be able to change a plug.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I know I have quite sort of, for a woman of my age, you know, I've got quite a sort of, some might say a trendy haircut, you know, shaved on the sides, you know, but I still like feeling feminine, and I still like wearing my makeup, and I still like, you know, feeling really good about myself. But I'm, you know, I can, you know, I fixed my own condenser. My condenser broke, and I Googled it. YouTube is fantastic. And so I've figured out how to fix it myself. So I fixed my own condenser, but I didn't have to, you know, sort of, you know, don a boiler suit or, you know, or something like that.
I know you probably weren't wearing a dress when you did it.
No, I wasn't. But if I happened to be wearing a dress when I was fixing it, that
just happens to be what you were wearing.
That just happened to be what I put on in the morning. But, you know, I think you can still be feminine and still have the ability to, you know, to fix things and to do things, and, you know, it doesn't make you a weak person.
No, and I think this is also one of the other criticisms I've had, and it's only come from women, funnily enough, is that they're saying that I'm talking about a feminine ideal, and that all women, in order to be, I don't know, traditional housewives or something, they have to fit into this, you know, almost like a feminine idea of only wearing dresses, shunning trousers. This isn't a religious sect, and it's almost like a sliding scale where you decide for yourself where you fit. I mean, I had a comment the other day saying, but you wear jeans. I'm like, yeah, but there's no rules. No. There's no hard and fast rules. I think all I talk about when I'm talking about femininity is the feel that I feel like it's been quashed my whole life. I feel like people have squashed that down. So when I hit puberty, there was all of a sudden I had to, you know, it was the age of Britney Spears. Preceding that was the Spice Girls. It was Christina Aguilera. Do you remember her Dirty album? So all of the jeans were like really low slung, and it was all about G-strings and crop tops. And I was still in my Doris Day phase. Yes. And I wore it because I wanted to fit in. I was desperate to fit in because at that age, you don't want to stand out.
No.
Because you get picked on.
Yes, you do.
But I've also noticed not much has changed.
No, it hasn't. And it's, you know, there's very much, and I've noticed it with your you know, my youngest, your younger sister. There's still this sort of culture of,
oh, it's all that e-girl stuff.
It's all e-girl. Well, it changes.
Yeah.
You know, it all changes, but it's very much because I've always raised all of you, including your brother, to be true to yourself. Be who you are, be true to yourself, and if you don't want to wear what your best friend wears, then don't. It's about being comfortable in yourself and being true to yourself. You don't have to follow the flock. You can be the black sheep if you want to be.
But it's a bit hard to do that. And you know what?
There's so much pressure out there. There's so much peer pressure out there, and there's so much, you know, and people are put under stress, ridiculous amount of stress to fit in.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful for the way that you raised us. But the problem I personally had, and I think that's why I wrote Ladies Like Us, is because the world stopped me from being who I wanted to be. It wasn't my parents necessarily. Home was where I could be myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the safe place.
Yeah.
Home is the safe place.
Exactly. So this whole traditional housewife thing as well it's still my safe place. And that's not to say I'm scared of the outside world. I'm just incredibly frustrated with it because all of the backlash that I've had in the media, all you're seeing is face value, and all you're seeing are article titles and sensationalism, and you make snap judgments on me immediately that's without searching a bit deeper. And so this whole submit to my husband thing, I love a turn of phrase. You know, I love a turn of phrase, like, especially for saying about being a Stepford wife. That is totally a joke. But what you also need to realise is that I only ever intended to create this content for women that feel the same way as me.
And there are
I never created it to try and convince my mum to change or for you to change. So obviously the media picked up on it, and I'm really glad they did, because I've since had 1,000 emails and direct messages from women who have said, I have felt exactly this same way.
It's astonishing, because I've been following all of this, and I've been reading all of the comments, and I think if anything that's come from this, it's given a voice to some of those women who have maybe been feeling that, you know, that it's not normal, that it's against the norm to want to be a homemaker, to be a traditional housewife.
And should I tell you what's really frustrating as well is when they say, and this is what my teacher said to me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would say, I want to be a wife and a mum. That was my highest ambition. I was looking for the dream at the end. And I think most of us want to be parents and to find the one we love. But to me, that was just what my heart said. But they were like, yeah, but what do you really want to do? So to me, that was like, which job do you want in the factory? Like, you don't want to be in the factory, but you've got to have one, so pick one. And it's like, that for me, my priorities weren't, and they still aren't, about a career and having a job title. And I appreciate that most people do have to work.
But being
and want to work, but that's what I wanted to do. But I was told it wasn't enough and that I needed to aim higher. No. Honestly, what?
Being a homemaker, which is what it is, which is what the job is. If you want to give it a job title,
it's actually about 20 jobs.
It's about 20 jobs in one.
You never stop.
It's a Jill of all trades, basically.
Yeah. Or Jack, if you're a
stay-at-home dad. You know, and some family dynamics are that it's the father that stays at home and does that role.
Yeah,
purely because the wife, you know, can earn a better salary.
Yeah, she chooses to work,
and she chooses to work,
and the dad might want to stay home. And this is also what I want to get across: is that some people have thought I'm really, I'm not inclusive. I am. But with the Darling Academy and what I do, I can only talk from a woman's experience. I've got no experience of being a stay-at-home dad. They've got a plethora of other issues and prejudice that they deal with.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that there'll be a stay-at-home dad that kind of feels bold enough to come out and talk about what he does and the joy of his job.
Yes, definitely.
So I'm completely inclusive. I'm inclusive of blended families, adopted children and parents and families and things like that. Single parents. It's all about the pleasure and trying and the homemaking, doing that as best you can rather than it feeling like a burden, because we've been sold for so long that cooking is like, oh, it's so inconvenient, let's just get a ready meal, or cleaning, oh, I've got to go home and do the cleaning. Actually, it creates a really pleasant environment when your home is orderly and nice. And
I mean, for me personally, when you're saying things like, you know, oh, I have to cook a meal, I mean, we've already established I'm not sort of domestic at all.
Although she's great at casserole queen, and
one pot wonder me.
Yeah, God, she makes the best cauliflower cheese.
But for me, things like that were always. But then maybe that was because I was always in a position where I had to go to work.
Yeah, and you were tired when you got home.
So by the time I got home, it did become such a task. It became a real burden for me, and so I haven't really ever enjoyed that sort of kind of domesticity. This one enjoys ironing. I can't bear it. I haven't ironed.
But you taught me how to iron.
I taught you how to iron.
I knew you hated it.
But I absolutely hate it. And so I haven't stood and done a batch of ironing for probably about 15 years.
You iron as you go now, don't you?
I iron as I go, because I also found, and this comes from experience, is that, you know, I would stand and do a batch of ironing for an hour, put it all away, and then by the time I sort of came to put something on, it was creased again, so I had to pull the ironing board out. So I decided that it was better for me that I just iron as I go. And if you're really clever and you either pull it out of the tumble dryer and fold it almost immediately, or off of the washing line, that a lot of the creases aren't there anyway. And a lot of the time, body heat actually takes a lot of the creases out. So
she's being like really smart about this, isn't that funny? I only iron because I absolutely love it. I find it really therapeutic. I love watching QVC whilst I iron as well. Like, I love the chatter.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I really like that.
So that's definitely nature, not nurture.
Proof, exactly. Just because your parents behaved in a certain way does not mean that you'll turn out the same. Speaking of, why am I linking that? Actually, this next question is going to sound really awful. But I was going to say, am I a white supremacist?
No. you're so not a white supremacist. I mean, that's just absolutely ridiculous for somebody to say. I mean,
and do you know what? I understand the link between the trad wife movement in America, and I think there are.
I didn't even know that existed.
I know. I spoke to a journalist the other day, and I said, do you know what? For every hashtag that I use, I never sit there and pore over the internet to see if there's some like weird forum where they're all talking about race and supremacy and all that kind of stuff. And also, the thing with Instagram is. And social media, I
don't do any of those.
No, you don't know how to use it.
I don't know how to use them. I'm Facebook, that's about it. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, not a clue.
Oh, I did a poll this morning, by the way, asking if I should let you in.
I did see that.
Everyone noticed that you didn't agree to the rules. Such a rule breaker. So we are just a load of like-minded women who want to connect with each other. So if I find a woman who's using a hashtag that's traditional housewife, and then obviously some of that's like it made a conjunction, trad for traditional, trad life, traditional life, housewife, wife. So that's as complex as it gets, and I've just been hauled over hot coals for it, and I am
which is just ridiculous.
I know,
which is just absolutely ridiculous.
This being a traditional housewife is not a white thing either. No. It has been celebrated by cultures all over the world for thousands of years, and yes, I understand the whole feeling of oppression and women's rights and things like that, but it's a woman's right to stay home too, and I think that's what you need to realise. And I'm not trying to send people back to the 1950s. I just like the aesthetics of the 1950s. In terms of the style. I love antiques. I mean, this sugar bowl here is from wartime Britain. Yeah. Which I just love. And also it plays into being frugal. So I could either buy something...
which is really, really important today. So it you know, if we can recycle and upcycle...
Exactly. It's actually a really green way to live because... Because we've obviously had to make financial sacrifices in order for me to stay home, the things that we buy are usually secondhand. Most of my clothing is thrifted, the stuff for my house. I'd rather buy, personally, something secondhand and with a story.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I love that myself. I mean, I'm very much...
out of landfill than go and buy something new. And now there are things that I buy new. I would never buy secondhand knickers, for example.
No.
And soft furnishings and things that can, just in terms of health-wise, but stuff that can be washed, something that has still got plenty of life left in it, it's a smart way to live. And I think more and more of us are actually kind of realising that, because I also grew up in the 90s, which there was a real yuppie boom, wasn't there? I think people were quite affluent.
Very.
So I think our psyche hasn't changed much, a lot of us, in that sense, because you grow up with what you know, don't you? So it's all, I can afford that, I want to afford that, so you kind of got to break out that cycle, especially if you want to live this lifestyle. There are changes, and I wouldn't even call it, and I've actually said this in the press, I've made sacrifices, and actually I'm going to take that back, because sacrifice is where you lose something. I've actually gained so much more.
You've gained far more by you know, yourself and your husband sitting down and making this decision together.
Yes, he didn't tell me I had to stay at home.
No.
He helped me, because I was so preconditioned to think that I had to have a job to be worth anything. And I was so scared of what people were going to think. I stayed in my job far longer than, and actually I probably ended up with depression over it. My self-esteem was rock bottom, and I'm not in touch with those people anymore. They're not awful. The environment was pretty toxic.
It's more the environment rather than the actual
it just wasn't
people,
natural for me. It wasn't a natural environment for me. So to be at home, I feel like so liberated and happy to be where I feel my place is in the world.
And I think as your mother, that's what's far more important to me, that you are happy. And I can see that. I can see the change from when you were working to now being, you know, the homemaker, staying at home, looking after your husband, looking after your son, and making sure that they are happy and healthy in themselves. To see that makes me happy. As your mum, because that's what's more important. For me, I'm just going to remind Alena that when you were 8, she actually said, "Mummy, I want to be a maid when I grow up.
So funny. Obviously, my vocabulary wasn't quite there yet.
No, it wasn't quite there. But you know, which and at that time, you know, I was never going to dismiss something like that.
I actually worked in housekeeping in a hotel. That was, God bless you, people that work in housekeeping in hotels, because it's
really hard work.
It's really hard work. It's backbreaking work, and it can be a bit nasty.
Yeah,
the things that you see,
there's a lot
and
of
the things that you have
discover.
to clean up. I think, yeah, God bless you. Like, that is a job that deserves so much more praise, especially considering I obviously went and stayed in a hotel recently. I always think that when I walk in, I think, bless the person that did all of this, you know. And they're undervalued. You see the people, and this is a funny thing as well. You see the people on the desk, and they're like, "Hello, welcome to the hotel," and all that stuff. You're having a lovely chat with them. The housekeepers in a hotel are behind the scenes, but they are doing the hardest work.
Yeah,
and
they're cleaning up after your mess.
Yeah, exactly. But we never see them, and we never hardly thank them, and we don't tip them. But they are doing backbreaking work to provide a service for you, and housewives are just the same. So we need to give everybody that does those things behind the scenes to keep the cogs whirring a great big round of applause, because, and often what's really sad is there's some of the most underpaid people, which just blows my mind.
I know.
There's nurses as well who are there nursing people back to health, and with them in the most frightening moments of their lives, there with them maybe when they're dying. Yeah. And again, they are working all hours, horrible shifts.
But the doctors are the ones that are highly revered and who are celebrated.
That's not taking away from doctors.
That's not taking away from doctors.
But again, the nurses.
The nurses are the ones
why aren't we paying
day in,
them as much as the doctors?
Yeah.
And it's not just because they're female either. It's just the fact that I don't even know why it is. It's incredibly unfair. So, but we're going to move on from this now.
You want me to remind you the other things you wanted to be?
Oh, a journalist actually was one of them, wasn't it? Because I obviously love writing. That's my passion. And this is something I want to say. This was another criticism. How are you a traditional housewife? This is my criticising voice. How are you a traditional housewife when you've written 2 books? How long did it take me to write those books?
Years.
Exactly.
Well, the first one, it was a labour of love, and it took a good, I think, solid 3 years to write the first one. I think the second one probably came out a little bit quicker.
No, actually, no, it's the other way around.
Oh, it's the other way around.
So Ladies Like Us, I had that on my heart to write that for a long time. And
that was years in the making. It was here and here.
I'd already written it in my heart before I sat down to write it. But the last one, English Etiquette, took me 3 long years. Yeah. And this is what you need to realise. Why is it okay for Sheryl Sandberg, who runs Facebook, to write a book? When did she fit that in around her full-time job? You create time to do stuff, and it's important for housewives to be creative. Some sew, and some make jam to sell, or some make children's items. And this is the difference. Housewives, traditional housewives, can have a little side hustle that brings in extra money for the family, not for me, not my own money, for the family. But the difference is that income is never relied on. And, and that job, that little side hustle, is the first thing to go if there's a crisis, the children are ill, and it's not classic employment.
But writing the books is no different to maybe you having kept a journal, a diary.
Yeah, and also,
in the sense of that, women, men, children, some of them keep diaries. And so they'd find a moment in time, a moment in their day to sit and journal. And
I felt
to a degree, it's no different. It's just something that you've put together. Because you've recognised that there's a gap. There's a gap in what's out there available.
When I was at my lowest point and my self-esteem was rock bottom, I was desperately searching for encouragement, and I'm a voracious reader. I always have been, haven't I?
Always have been, yeah.
So I was looking for books or blogs, and I wasn't finding anything. I wasn't finding the information that I desperately wanted about it's okay to stay home. It's okay to feel like you want to be girly. It's okay to want a family. It's okay to just be a housewife. And because we celebrate all these women who do the best in business, but what about celebrating the women who want to run their homes the best what they can? So that's all I ever did was sharing information that I wish I had. And also, I implore you to go and find someone who's self-published and ask them why they've still got a job, because they do, it might bring in a little bit of extra money here and there, but it cannot be relied on. And it certainly has not meant that, we are millionaires whatsoever. And blogging, unless you hit the big time, it doesn't pay.
The thing is, even if you've written the books, there's no guarantee that they're going to be bought.
No, exactly.
So it's definitely not an income that you can rely on. And if the books do sell,
I think
fantastic.
for the first year when I released Ladies Like Us, it sold a little flurry in the beginning, but after that, I think the average was about 2 or 3 copies a month. So, which
is definitely not something that you can rely on. No. But, do you
know what? That equates to maybe a tenner.
Well, there you go.
So there we go.
There you go.
Squash that one for you.
Definitely.
Right. Submission.
Yeah.
Dirty word.
Is it?
Apparently. So I've obviously not been shy about the fact that my husband and I are Christians. You're not.
Nope.
No, wasn't raised a Christian. Found that faith myself.
Yeah, which was always my aim with you children. None of you are christened. It's for you to find your own faith, and your own beliefs.
My husband and I are also born again, so we also believe that it's about an individual journey. I'm not trying to indoctrinate anyone. Your faith is your relationship between you and your creator, whatever that faith may be as well. I'm not saying traditional housewives must be Christian, white supremacy, that kind of stuff. I've had loads of Muslim women contacting me as well and saying thank you. That's brilliant. I love it because we're finally actually.
But there are traditional homemakers.
Yeah.
I mean, the word traditional, it just seems to be a bad word.
Yeah, we'll get onto that. We'll get onto that next. What I want to say about submission is my understanding of submission is coming from a biblical context. Now, obviously years ago, everybody kind of would have been church going. So they might have had an understanding of it. And it does say, wives submit to your husbands, but that husband needs to submit to God as well and the laws laid out. And he needs to love his wife like Christ loves the church. So just because he might be the head of the family, and that's what I mean by submission, headship, right, does not mean that he can abuse and berate and control. And it's more, in essence, a sense of responsibility for making sure. Someone gave a great analogy, actually, is that you can't have 2 captains of a ship.
I read that comment, and that was brilliant.
That was a great one, because that defines it perfectly.
You can't.
It's that he takes control over certain decisions, which I'm money, not interested. Cars, not interested. Appliances, unless it's a kitchen appliance, not interested. Taxing the cars. It's not that I'm incapable of doing those things. It's just that my husband takes that responsibility off me. And I trust him implicitly to make sure. So the captain of the ship makes sure that you stay afloat and the family's heading in the right direction. And he keeps us away from the icebergs and keeps us away from the rocks. Yeah. And the light, what's it called? On the
beacon?
The beacon or the lighthouse?
The lighthouse.
The lighthouse for us is God. So we follow that pattern. So that article I wrote about submitting, I wrote it to the ladies that live like me and feel like me, and a lot of them are Christian, and they understand that.
They understand it. But I'm not Christian. I don't have any faith other than being kind and considerate and all of that kind of stuff. But I understand it as by submitting to your husband, that you give him sort of, because there are certain things that like you say, the financial side of things. So you submit to him to making the final decision on those, because that's not something that you want to, not that you're not interested in it, but you're not interested in it. Basically.
I'd rather go and make marmalade, if I'm honest.
Well, this is it. But then he then too submits other decisions to you.
Yeah, I'm making marmalade, not jam.
So it's whether Alena is making marmalade this month or going to be making chutneys. So, but he submits to her the choice in what they're going to eat for that meal. But so he doesn't have to worry about that. I do question with all of this happening. I've been sort of playing these scenarios through my head, and these couples who who live in a household where both of them work and then have children, and they come home from work, and then I see this debate going on.
This is what we
Is it your turn to make? It's your turn to make dinner tonight. It's your turn. What should we have? What, I don't know what we should have. I don't know. What have we got in the fridge? What have we got? So I see that your husband submits to you in that he then doesn't have to worry about those kinds of things. So you do the meal planning. You decide what you're going to eat.
Yeah.
You decide,
And I tell him, step away from the sausages. You can't have a sausage sandwich because I'm making bangers and mash tomorrow.
There you go.
That's it. I just had to start recording again because my mum waffles and it ran out of space.
No, I do not waffle.
You do waffle. I think I get it from you, actually. I'm a bit of a waffler. I top my tea up.
No, we just we debate. We discuss and debate.
I don't think there's any debate.
No, there is no debate.
So what do you think... Actually, let's take it back 12 years.
Okay.
What did you think of my husband when you first met him?
Well, he is obviously a little bit older than yourself.
Closer to your age than mine.
It's closer to my age, yes. So when he calls me mum, it's a bit surreal.
Obviously, I've got daddy issues. Do you know what? That is so untrue. It's just that I don't know why, I've just never found men my own age attractive.
As I said, you've always been an old soul.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably...
All of my friends have always been older, actually, funny enough.
Yes, they have. But then again, I mean, you were... Because there's between you and your brother, there's 8 years.
Yeah.
So when you were little as well, a lot of your time was spent with adults.
Yeah, my grandparent... We practically lived at...
Yeah.
Motman Watford's
because
house,
I had to go to work.
Yeah,
so
you were so young, obviously, and you needed the help and things. And also, I was the only child for 8 years.
8 years, yeah.
That was nice.
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up.
There weren't even any nieces and nephews because they came sort of much later on.
Oh yeah, they're young enough to be my children.
They are indeed, yeah. I mean, so it's, I mean, you know, you were amongst adults for a lot of your
And I think
childhood.
that probably played into why I felt so out of place at school as well, because I mentally and my life experiences and the conversations that we were having at home were vastly different from playground. So, and the whole Doris Day thing probably didn't help. You've indoctrinated me. You made me an old woman.
Sorry. Que sera, sera.
Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? Obviously not. So obviously I introduced you to my husband, who is just shy of 15 years older than me. And so I was in my early 20s. I think I'd just turned 22 and he was in his mid 30s. Mm-hmm. And so he was at the stage in his life where I already was. Mm-hmm. So obviously wanting to settle down and kind of, he was out of that party. Well, actually, no, he wasn't at that party stage. He's still a bit of a party animal, isn't he?
Yeah. Not so much now.
Not so much now. He has calmed down, actually, in recent years, hasn't he? But I've always found kind of like older men attractive, just in terms of their conversation and not running away from things.
I think I'm very much sort of, you know, it's... When you fall in love, you fall in love.
Exactly.
And I don't think
you don't choose who you fall in love with.
You don't. No, I think you know there. I do believe in there are soulmates, and there are people who you're drawn to, and I don't think age is is should be an issue. Age.
No,
culture.
It's really not, because why is it an issue? Why is it an issue if I'm with an older man, but a woman having a younger man, we celebrate that? Oh, well done, cougar, and all that. Yeah. Apparently, I'm a younger women with older men are like gold diggers, or
you've got daddy issues,
or I've got daddy issues.
You know, whereas women who have younger boyfriends, which I've had,
and I want to as well. This is what I want to say to the guys that have contacted me, because I've had some single guys email me asking to create a dating app to find women with these kind of traditional family values.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they're saying they're going out and all the girls are interested in, or they apparently what it looks like they're interested in, taking selfies and wearing skimpy clothing and all that. I'm wondering whether those girls are actually really wanting to do that, or they feel they have to in order to attract a man. Yeah. So these guys are looking for girls like this, like girls like you, if you're watching this and you are traditional. The way to get around that, both guys and girls talk to each other. Say you don't, if they're going to run for the hills when you say you want to get married and have babies,
they're
great,
not the right person.
Because they won't waste your time.
No.
However, those people that are looking for that will go, oh, right, okay, yeah, me too, I love my family.
Yeah.
So you have this conversation. So all of the Cosmopolitan magazine, sorry Cosmo, but all of the articles that were written by single women journalists telling you how to navigate the dating scene for success, don't go there for the don't ever take relationship advice from people that have been like divorced 5 times. And also like the whole Sex and the City thing, they were neurotic about relationships, weren't they?
Yeah, they were, definitely.
Not a healthy example.
No,
so my encouragement for you is just start talking and communicating. That is the best way. And that's what my husband did when we first got together. So he actually identified in me and I'll tell you what, when he first said it, I balked. I was like, you what? How dare you say that to me? But he said, I can tell that you want a man to look after you. And not in a sense of kind of like being this creepy dynamic. But he could see in me. He could see that I flourished when I was in the kitchen or I was doing domestic things. And there might have been some element of our relationship that meant that I was like, no, you decide, honey, it's fine.
I mean, I've been because I've been a single parent for most of my parenting life. You know, that's a whole different conversation. You know, and so I'm quite an independent person. I'm quite self-sufficient. I'm quite good at just getting on and doing.
Yeah, and I'm not incapable of that either.
And you're not incapable of that either. But for me, as you know, I would love to be in a relationship where a man would say that to me, because even though I am quite independent and I can look after myself, I would really love to find that one person that would say to me, and it doesn't mean them throwing money at me, it doesn't mean them paying for it, it's basically what that says to me is I will protect you.
Yes.
I will look after you. I will defend you.
It's the sweeping off your feet thing. Let's have a think about this, right?
Yeah.
So the greatest rom-coms of all time, or romantic movies, right? What happens in Pretty Woman?
He sweeps her off her feet.
Exactly. What happens in Dirty Dancing?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What are the other ones?
He literally sweeps her off her feet.
Oh, Johnny Castle. He was my first love. Sorry, husband.
I've seen that film so many times. It was her thing, and she knew every word.
I still do.
Even not just the songs, but every part of the dialogue. Yeah. She knew.
Still do.
Still do, yes.
Yeah. Oh, Patrick.
I know.
But if you think about the Disney movies as well, like the princesses in Disney movies are amazing characters. Like, they fight as well. They're quite...
They're feisty.
They're not feisty. They're not weak. They're actually really quite feisty. But they're still feminine. You can be feisty and be feminine.
Absolutely.
But they still get swept off their feet. And we've been... I think this is a deep desire in all of us.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, I'll take that back, because I realise that not everyone will agree, but the vast majority of us do want the fairy tale, but you have to let it happen.
But it's not. We have to be very. But the thing is, we had the conversation about this the other day. So I did see a comment saying, you need to, on one of you, something that was there. But a woman said, "Oh, you need to look up the definition of fairy tale. We don't live in the land of Disney." A fairy tale is everybody's fairy tale is going to be very, very different. Yes. So it's when Alena says that she's living her fairy tale, it's her fairy tale. It's her definition of what that is. So it can be very, very different. So if we want to use fairy tale as a title, what we can do is look at it as a smorgasbord, and so there are lots of different things within a fairy tale that you can have. So you can say, I want this. So I'm quite happy to do it.
It's like a sweet shop.
It's like a sweet shop. You pick and choose, and that's like anything else.
Yeah, that's like the 1950s thing. I don't want women to be oppressed and to not have rights and all that kind of stuff. It's just I cherry pick. And then I've also been asked if I'm a feminist. What do you understand feminism to be?
It's about choice. Feminism. Feminism.
It's such a loaded word now, isn't it?
It's an extremely loaded word.
I must say, I hate radical feminism, because
You see, I
the
find...
whole,
yeah.
do you know what I really disagree with? The future is female.
What is that?
It's one of the statements that is used, like bandied around with feminism. I thought we were fighting for equality, not dominance. I'm all for women's equality and women's rights and protection of women in situations where they are taking advantage of blah, blah, blah. I just really want to get this across. I believe in men too, and I believe men are inherently good.
Yeah.
And there are always bad apples, but there are in women too.
Of course, yeah, definitely.
So women aren't morally superior to men.
No.
That's the side of feminism that I really don't like. So I'm going to be really careful now when I say, am I a feminist? Because I kind of want to ask, what do you mean by that?
Well, everybody, again, it's the same with... you know,
it's like
what's your definition or understanding or perception of the word submissive or submit? For feminism is exactly the same. So if you want to take it right back to you know, women fighting for the right to vote.
Oh, this is interesting.
It's the right to vote, but again, it's your choice whether you want to vote or not.
Yeah, this is really
If you choose not to vote, that's your choice.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be thrown at you. Well, you know, the women died so you could vote, and that's absolutely fine. But feminism for me is about your right to choose to do something.
That should be, and that's what we should be fighting for. And I read an interesting...
Oppression is when women are being told you can't do something.
That's not right at all.
Or anybody. Oppression is when someone is told you can't do something.
Yeah.
Men, women... No, that's oppression. But you have a right to choose to do something or not.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be judged or... vilified for that choice. That's your individual
public
choice.
enemy number one.
You know, it's not, you know, it's not for somebody to judge.
No. And this is a funny thing. I actually saw something very interesting the other day. Is about how history has been written. Did you know that I think was about 3/4 of all men in the British Army in World War I didn't have the right to vote either, because they weren't property owners.
Yeah.
So how quickly did the right to vote for men and then the right to vote for women? So we need to be really careful with the stuff that we're told as well. We need to, and again, the whole article, submit and all that kind of stuff, go on my website and read further, because I explain it in detail. Stop taking things verbatim and reacting immediately to what you're spoon-fed by the media.
Yeah, it's sensationalism.
Do your own research.
Do your own research. And I was thinking about this driving over here today. A lot of these comments, they're making a quick judgment about you on sensationalized headlines.
Yeah.
You know, if they really want to understand it, they can email you and ask you to clarify.
Some people have, and I'm really,
by that.
I'm grateful to you for reaching out. And some people have actually said I clicked on the YouTube video, like for say my This Morning interview, and I was expecting to hate what you said, but actually you came across really well. That's because I was given the time to talk about it. And there's like so many things like, why do I have a picture of the Queen and some bunting in my kitchen?
Because you like nostalgia, you like vintage, you like...
Yeah.
You know, and the thing is...
But apparently I'm a nationalist, but I'm not even British.
No, I'm Danish. I was born in Denmark, and I, although my stepfather adopted me, I have chosen to keep my Danish nationality.
And that means I inherited, because you were single when I was born.
I wasn't married at the time when I had you, and so being in this... Now, I've been in this country since I was 5 years old, so... You know, but because I had Danish nationality and I wasn't married when I had Alena instantly took my nationality. Now, Alena has chosen to keep that as well because it's part of her heritage. It's part of who she is.
And so is kind of the British side of me.
But also, you know, Alena was born here. She... You know,
educated here, raised here, paid
her taxes,
but you know,
and loves the history of this land.
Yes,
as do I. I mean,
the good side of it. There are some dark sides.
There are some very dark, nasty sides. We both love the English language. don't we?
Yeah.
We both absolutely love it, and we have a lot of discussions.
Just as well I inherited that from her, not her domestic skills.
Yeah. So we have a lot of discussions about language and
how words can be so loaded as well.
Definitely.
So the whole it's funny because when they did the filming there was a Union Jack behind me that said truly great, and I do think this country is truly great. At the core of it there are problems, but we need to work through those. It doesn't mean that I'm a nationalist and that I couldn't even vote in the Brexit thing, because obviously I'm not British, but having a Union Jack doesn't automatically mean I would have been a leaver. You're actually really quite wrong there. I would prefer we'd remain, but only because I'm Danish and I want us all to be one happy family. So but they have this assumption that I'm a nationalist. I just love the Queen, and also that was an Emma Bridgewater tea towel.
But that makes you a royalist. Which is
all these blinking labels.
I know. But I do. I like the royal family as well.
The Emma Bridgewater tea towel, because she's got put a Union Jack on it, and I've got an Emma Bridgewater Union Jack mug. Does that make her a nationalist as well?
Well, that's a question for Emma Bridgewater.
Yes, Emma, I invite you on. Right, we should probably wrap this up now because I think we've been waffling on for about 45 minutes.
You got no more questions for me?
Oh yeah. Comment below if you want Mum to come back. Okay, thanks for joining us for this cup of tea. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Cheers.